Es ist kurz nach 13:30 Uhr. Meine Damen und Herren, ich darf Sie herzlich willkommen heißen zu unserem Ökodesign-Webinar How to Get Involved. Mein Name ist Ulrike Witz, ich bin Referentin im Fachverband Metalltechnische Industrie. Ich darf Sie herzlich zu unserem heutigen Webinar begrüßen. Wie wird das Webinar ablaufen? Wir zeichnen das Webinar auf. Die Aufzeichnung und die Folien, die Sie heute sehen, werden online gestellt und sind ab kommendem Montag auf unserer ESPR-Homepage abzurufen. Heute wird das Webinar circa 1,5 Stunden dauern. Wir haben einen 50-minütigen Vortrag für Sie vorbereitet und im Anschluss daran gibt es die Möglichkeit, Fragen und Antworten zu diskutieren. Die Fragen können Sie jederzeit in Slido stellen. Wir haben auch noch weitere Ideen für künftige Webinare, die jeweils 1 bis 1,5 Stunden dauern werden, je nach dem Thema. Die Fragen habe ich gerade schon erwähnt, jederzeit per Slido einzustellen. Wir sammeln diese Fragen und nach ca. 60 Minuten diskutieren wir die Antworten. Wer trägt heute vor? Ich darf Ihnen vorstellen Stephanie Mittelham, die Managerin für Green Transition im Europäischen Dachverband der Maschinen-, Elektrotechnik, Elektronik und Metalltechnik, Fachorganisationen auf nationaler Ebene. Stephanie Mittelham hat langjährige Expertise im Bereich Ökodesign. Sie kennt sich im bisherigen System super aus und sie ist Wegbegleiterin von Anfang an für diese neue Ökodesign-Rahmenregelung, die wir heute diskutieren im Detail. Vielen Dank, Stephanie, dass du heute dabei bist.
Ja, bitte.
Des Weiteren darf ich meinen Kollegen Heinz Peziner von der Umweltpolitischen Abteilung der Wirtschaftskammer im Studio begrüßen und aus Brüssel auch zugeschaltet ist Clemens Rosenmeier von der Bundessparte Industrie. Für diejenigen, die heute vielleicht das erste Mal dabei sind, zur Information, wir haben eine Ökodesign-Homepage kreiert. Auf dieser Homepage finden Sie alle aktuellen Informationen zum Thema Ökodesign. Wir haben schon ein paar Webinare durchgeführt. Auf dieser Seite finden Sie die Aufzeichnungen dazu und die Folien, die dort jeweils präsentiert wurden. Sie finden alle Informationen, die im Bereich Ökodesign derzeit aktuell vorhanden sind. Und wir haben auch eine ziemlich große Zahl von regelmäßigen Fragen mit Antworten auf dieser Homepage online gestellt, die für den Einstieg in das Thema sehr hilfreich sein können. Zu unserer Webinarreihe, was gab es schon und was ist da noch in Planung? Auf der linken Seite sehen Sie die 4 Webinare inklusive des heutigen, die schon abgehalten wurden. Wir haben angefangen mit einem generellen Überblick, dann mit einem Einstieg in den digitalen Produktpass. Wir hatten im September zuletzt eine Veranstaltung zur Auswertung der Daten des digitalen Produktpasses mittels KI und dem Rechtsschutz. Und heute beschäftigen wir uns halt mit der Frage, wie können Firmen sich einbringen in diesen Prozess. Und wie Sie sehen, haben wir noch weitere Themen. Und je länger man sich mit diesem Ökodesign-Thema beschäftigt, desto mehr Fragen fallen einem ein und desto mehr Webinare fallen uns ein, die wir für die Unternehmen veranstalten wollen, um einfach eine große Informationspalette zu bieten. So, dann ist die Frage, was ist jetzt Ökodesign unter der ESPR? ESPR ist Ecodesign for Sustainable Product Regulation, das ist also dieses Rahmenwerk, das regelt das Design und die Herstellung von Produkten. Und das soll die Grundlage sein für die Einführung der Kreislaufwirtschaft. Die Rohstoffe sollen also möglichst lange im Kreislauf geführt werden können und dafür haben wir jetzt das Rahmenrecht, das schon gilt. Und alles, was jetzt noch kommt, das sind die produktspezifischen Regelungen, die in späteren Rechtsakten geregelt werden sollen. Und da haken wir heute auch ein. Zum Design und für die Herstellung von Produkten gibt es ergänzende Vorschriften, nämlich zum einen das Recht auf Reparatur und auch die Green Claims. Was sind betroffene Produkte? In Zukunft wird Ökodesign für nahezu alle physischen Produkte relevant sein. Die Ausnahmen sind sehr überschaubar, da gibt es nur so 7 oder 8 Produktgruppen, die ausgeklammert sind. Alles andere wird über die Zeit unter Ecodesign geregelt werden. Und was wird da geregelt? Im Gegensatz zum bisherigen System, das nur auf energieverbrauchsrelevante Produkte geschaut hat, nämlich unter der Kategorie wie hoch ist der Energieverbrauch, kommen jetzt 15 zusätzliche Ökodesign-Anforderungen hinzu. Aber dazu hören Sie im weiteren Verlauf des Webinars noch mehr. Der digitale Produktpass ist neu und das zentrale Medium in diesem Zusammenspiel. Da werden alle Informationen zu Leistungs- und Informationskriterien gesammelt und entlang der Wertschöpfungskette weitergegeben. Und das Ziel ist es eigentlich, Produkte laufend zu verbessern, die Kunden zu informieren und den Behörden die Überwachung zu ermöglichen. Darf ich jetzt weitergeben an Clemens? Was erwartet uns heute?
Ja, vielen Dank, liebe Uli, danke für das Wort. Clemens Rosenmeier, mein Name. Ich bin heute auch per Online zugeschaltet. Ich hoffe, das funktioniert alles und Sie können mich hören. Was sind die heutigen Fragestellungen? Zum einen, wie sieht der Zeitplan aus? Also wo befinden wir uns jetzt in der Ausarbeitung der Ökodesign-Regeln und wo geht es hin? Wie entstehen eigentlich diese neuen ESPR-Regeln? Was ist die Rolle des sogenannten Ökodesign-Forums, also sozusagen ein Expertenforum, das die Kommission dabei unterstützt, diese Regeln auszuarbeiten? Da werden wir auch was im Detail dazu hören. Wie setzt sich das Forum zusammen und wer kann dabei mitmachen und wie kann man mitmachen? Welche Produkte sollen priorisiert werden? Wir haben schon von den Ausnahmen gehört, aber welche Produkte sollen dann eigentlich reguliert werden? Und wie geht das vonstatten? Welche Vorarbeiten sind hierzu schon angelaufen? Wie läuft dann praktisch die Arbeit in so einer Expertengruppe der Kommission eigentlich ab? Und wir können dann natürlich auch diskutieren, ob es weitere Möglichkeiten gibt, wie man sich einbringen kann. So, wenn ich weitergehe auf die nächste Folie. Zum Ablauf, also zum Zeitplan, wo steht die Ökodesign-Verordnung heute? Sie ist ja bereits Mitte Juli, am 18. Juli 2024 in Kraft getreten. Im letzten Quartal diesen Jahres, also jetzt demnächst, soll auch schon das erste Treffen des sogenannten Ökodesign-Forums stattfinden. Bis zum 19.04.2025 im nächsten Schritt muss Rahmenwerk sozusagen vorgeschrieben, dass ein 3-jähriger Arbeitsplan erarbeitet werden muss mit dann jeweils priorisierten Produkten, die dann innerhalb dieser 3 Jahre reguliert werden sollen. Der erste dieser Arbeitspläne soll eben bis April 2025 stehen. Im Juli 2025 eine weitere Regelung, wird es weitere Informationen oder weitere Regelungen in Kraft treten zum Zerstörungsverbot unverkaufter Konsumentenprodukte. Am 31.12.2025 soll der delegierte Rechtsakt zu den technischen Details des digitalen Produktpasses stehen und die ersten Produktgruppen werden dann ab Ende 2025 bis Anfang 2026 sozusagen reguliert werden, beziehungsweise es tritt in Kraft. Und dann haben die Mitgliedstaaten 18 Monate Zeit, sozusagen diese Regelungen umzusetzen. Das heißt, wir sprechen dann frühestmöglich von Mitte 2027, bis es tatsächlich dann die Regulierungen in Kraft treten. Unten diese bunten Pfeile sind dann sozusagen die Vorarbeiten, die schon angelaufen sind, die ich schon angesprochen habe in der Frage, nämlich zu Eisen und Stahl und zu Textilien. Zu dem werden wir auch etwas später noch kommen, wo es in diesen Bereichen gibt es bereits Vorstudien. Wie entstehen jetzt die neuen ESPR-Regeln? Zum einen, es gibt Vorarbeiten im Rahmen von, das dauern etwa 2 bis 3 Jahre vom Product Bureau und vom sogenannten Joint Research Center, wo eigentlich alle Interessenten teilnehmen können. Dann wird je Produktgruppe ein delegierter Rechtsakt erarbeitet durch die Kommission und das genannte Ökodesign-Forum, durch Regierungs- und sonstige Interessenvertreter und Experten wiederum 2 bis 3 Jahre etwa im Rahmen eben dieses Arbeitsplans. Und dann haben die Mitgliedstaaten 18 Monate Zeit, um diese Regelungen auch umzusetzen. Wenn wir weitergehen, was ist die Rolle des Ökodesign-Forums? Im Artikel 19 ist das beschrieben. Es ist eine Sachverständigengruppe, an denen an der von den Mitgliedstaaten benannte Sachverständige und interessierte Kreise ausgewogen und wirksam beteiligt sind. Interessierte Kreise, diejenigen, die an diesem Produkt interessiert sind. Was sind die Aufgaben? Also die Ausarbeitung von den Ökodesign-Anforderungen an sich für das Produkt, die Ausarbeitung von Arbeitsplänen, bis man sozusagen bis zur Produktregelung kommt, die Prüfung der Wirksamkeit der festgelegten Marktüberwachungsmechanismen, die Beurteilung von Selbstregulierungsmaßnahmen, wo Unternehmen beschließen, sozusagen eigene Regelungen zu schaffen, bevor es überhaupt Regulierungen unter der Ökodesign-Verordnung gibt. Und die Beurteilung auch des Verbots der Vernichtung unverkaufter Verbraucherprodukte. Ich habe das schon angesprochen. Also das Ökodesign-Forum berät auch in anderen Fragen die Kommission, nicht nur, wenn es darum geht, die Produktregelungen im Detail dann auszuarbeiten. Es wird eine fixe Sachverständigenuntergruppe aus den Vertretern der Mitgliedstaaten geben, die sich insbesondere mit den Punkten A und D, nämlich der Ausarbeitung der Anforderungen an sich und auch mit den Selbstregulierungsmaßnahmen beschäftigen soll und auch sozusagen Best Practices austauschen soll zur Umsetzung und Einhaltung der Regeln. Wenn wir weitergehen zur Zusammensetzung, ich habe es schon gesagt, ich habe hier den Text herauskopiert sozusagen aus dem Englischen. Auch Industrie-Stakeholder, Wirtschaftsstakeholder, auch von KMU und dem Gewerbe sollen hier vertreten sein, eben von den betroffenen Produktgruppen. Die Kommission kann zusätzlich auch Beobachter nominieren. Die Kommission ist sich jetzt noch nicht ganz sicher, dass der Fokus nur auf Branchenverbänden bzw. Organisationen liegt. Im Moment sieht es so aus, dass einzelne Unternehmen nicht daran teilnehmen können. Allerdings kann natürlich die Möglichkeit sein, vielleicht als zusätzlicher Beobachter hier nominiert zu werden. Dazu hören wir dann in weiterer Folge deutlich mehr im Detail. Und es gibt auch Überlegungen der Kommission, wie sie KMU unterstützen kann zur aktiven Teilnahme. Wenn wir weitergehen, auf die nächste Folie, etwas Info zur Produktpriorisierung. Also die Kommission generell, also der Rahmen gibt vor, dass die Kommission den potenziellen Beitrag dieser Produkte zur Verwirklichung der Klima-, Umwelt- und Energieeffizienzziele der EU analysiert, insbesondere folgende Aspekte des Potenzials, also Verbesserungsaspekte, ohne unverhältnismäßig hohe Kosten zu verursachen, das Verkaufs- und Handelsvolumen der Produkte in der EU, also sprich, hat das wirklich eine Auswirkung im Markt, und auch die Verteilung der Klima- und Umweltauswirkungen des Energieverbrauchs, des Ressourcenverbrauchs, Abfallaufkommen dieser Produkte entlang der Wertschöpfungskette, hier eben im Zusammenhang auch mit dem Handelsvolumen dieser Produkte in der EU. Es gibt dann eben diese 3-jährigen Arbeitspläne zur Bearbeitung, und der erste muss im April bereits stehen. Und zu guter Letzt, last but not least, welche Produkte wurden bereits identifiziert durch die Kommission, die stehen auch so im Gesetzestext schon drinnen. Da gab es eine Studie vom sogenannten Joint Research Center der Kommission, und das habe ich auch hier Ihnen zusammengefasst als Überblick. Eisen und Stahl eben, wie gesagt, und Textilien, da sind Vorarbeiten bereits angelaufen. Das heißt, da kann man schon davon ausgehen, dass diese Branchensektoren im ersten Arbeitsplan enthalten sind. Und bei den anderen, von den anderen werden wohl auch ein paar ausgewählt werden für den ersten Arbeitsplan. Chemikalien, Aluminium, Reifen, Möbel, Waschmittel, Anstrichmittel und Farben, Lacke und so, Schmierstoffe, Elektronikgeräte und energieverbrauchsrelevante Produkte werden hier genannt. Bevor ich nun das Wort an Stefanie Mittelham übergebe, noch mal kurz zur Erinnerung, die Ökodesign-Homepage ist online, wko.at/energie/ESPR, und wir updaten auch laufend mit neuen Themen in den FAQs, auch mit Fragen natürlich, die Sie heute stellen werden. With all this in mind, I think I will switch to English now. I hope everything went fine so far and everyone could hear and hear me and see the slides. And I will now hand over to you, Stephanie, with your large practical experience in how these expert groups work and how we can actually get our companies to work in them, to work on the rules together. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Clemens. I hope you can all see my slides. Let me know. So good afternoon. It's a big pleasure and big honor for me to be with you in this important eco-design webinar you are organizing. My name is Stephanie Mittelham. I live in Brussels since 24 years. You can maybe hear from my beautiful accent that I'm French, origin from France, but also I'm half German. But since I spent all my life in France and I work in English since 20 years, English is much easier for me than German. So I apologize. I understand everything you are saying, but English is easier for me. Thanks a million to WKO and to FMTI for inviting Orgalim to speak at your event. One thing is what's going on in Brussels, but much more important is what's going on in the countries, and to have all the companies active and involved in this green transition train. So I'm really happy and very pleased to attend your webinar today. So thanks a million again for the invitation. Maybe before I switch to the slides, so I kindly mentioned in the introduction by Clemens and Uli. So I work at Orgalim. I will tell you in a second what Orgalim is. It's an association based in Brussels. I work for Orgalim since more than 8 years. And before working for Orgalim, I was working for the lighting industry for an association called Lighting Europe during 12 years. And the lighting industry has been heavily impacted by eco-design measures. The reason why you see in the shops only LED lighting today compared to a few years ago is simply because of the eco-design directive. So I'm involved in eco-design indeed since quite a while, and I'm happy to share my experience and more information with you today. So this is the content of my presentation today. I will first of all introduce you to what is Orgalim at EU level, then recap again a bit what the new Eco-Design for Sustainable Products Regulation, abbreviated with ESPR, is about. Uli and Clement already mentioned a few things, but I will try to complement as good as I can what they already said before. And then we will go into details on how you as companies should and can get involved in these eco-design measures for sustainable products. When is the best moment for you as companies to get involved? And I guess more important for you, how concretely can you companies get involved in this process? And I will then give you some conclusions. And last but not least, I will be very happy to receive questions from you at the end of the presentation. So let's start with Orgalim. So Orgalim is an industry federation at EU level. We are based in Brussels, and we represent 3 different types of sectors, as mentioned by Uli in our introduction. First of all, mechanical engineering, then metal technology, like FMTI, and then electrical engineering, electronics, and ICT. So Orgalim represents the interest of Europe's technology industries, which is the largest manufacturing sector in Europe, responsible for 1/3 of European exports. And you can see a few important figures on this slide. So our members are responsible for an annual turnover of more than 2.8 billion euro, directly employing more than 11 million persons in Europe, and exports I mentioned to you, responsible for 1/3 of the exports. And last but not least, so Europe's technology industries are comprised of many companies, more than 700,000, and most of them are small companies. So who are the members of Orgalim? Historically, the members of Orgalim are national associations in various countries in Europe. And in Austria, the Orgalim member is FMTI, you can see it here. And we have members in many different countries of Europe, but we also have, on top of national associations or historical members, some sector associations at EU level specialized in some specific sectors or products. For example, EGMF for garden machinery product. We have Europomp for pumps. We have Eurocable for cables and so on. So they are specialized. And last but not least, we also have some companies being direct members of Orgalim, what we call Orgalim for Corporate. And you can see their logos on the right side of the screen. An important message is that the members of Orgalim, so Europe's technology industries, we really position ourselves in Brussels, are the ones providing the solutions to do the green and digital transition in practice, which is really very nice. And I'm very proud to work for such a positive industry making the transition happen. We are not representing energy-intense industries. We really position ourselves as tech industries as the one providing the solutions in many different fields, which you can see on the screen. And just a few words about how we are organized and how do we handle the green topics and where does this eco-design for sustainable product regulation topic fit into the organization. So like any association, I guess like very similar to WKO or FMTI, we have a general assembly, we have a board of directors, we have a president's board, we have what we call a policy committee with the directors of all our national associations. But most important is that the day-to-day policy content of Orgalim is done by the blue bubbles, which are the different working groups in Orgalim working on various topics. Of course, we are not only active on green topics, but also on digital topics, internal market-related topics, legal topics, economics and statistics, R&D and innovation, trade policy, and our most active working group in Orgalim, and you are very lucky in Austria because you are very well represented by Ulrike Witz from FMTI. She's the Austrian voice in this green transition working group of Orgalim, and she's also the vice chair of our working group. Uli, thanks a million for being so active and committed to Orgalim. Thank you, thank you. So day-to-day green activities are done in this green transition working group of Orgalim. We are meeting every 2 weeks. We used to meet once a week since 2020 when the Commission published a new circular economy action plan, and we have around 40 members of Orgalim attending our meetings every 2 weeks, just to show you the commitment of Orgalim members. And in this group, we mainly deal with circular economy-related topics, including eco-design, which has been the top one priority topic since already 4 years. And to give you an idea on how proactive it is important to be in Brussels, the final text of the ESPR has been published this summer, summer 2024. As Orgalim, we started to come up with messages and to give our messages to policymakers, in particular to the Commission, already at the end of the year 2020. So nearly 4 years before, to influence the final text, which has been published this summer. We did not wait for official consultations to be launched. We tried to be as proactive as we could. And of course, we are not only working on eco-design, we are working on many different product-related legislation, like packaging, green claims, the right to repair. We have specific task forces dealing with chemicals, the famous upcoming REACH review, PFAS, you might have heard about it, the ROS directive. We also are active on waste with the upcoming review of the WE directive, Waste Framework Directive. We have a specific group on corporate sustainability, dealing with anything related to taxonomy, also known as sustainable finance, due diligence, corporate reporting, and energy resilience group dealing with all climate and energy topics. So like you at national level, we are not bored in Brussels with all the many different topics coming to our table. And now, how do you concretely influence things in Brussels? One thing is to provide input to Commission persons you might know, but there's also an official process, which, as mentioned by Clemens, is known as the Commission Expert Group. So on various topics, the Commission is establishing expert groups, and they invite the relevant expert on a specific topic to make sure that they listen to all stakeholders. And on the side of the environment, be aware that Orgalim is already a member of the old Eco-Design and Energy Labeling Consultation Forum, as shown in yellow on that slide. And we are one of the industry representatives in this forum. And so it's very important to be a member in this group so you can influence the process. So now briefly recapping the new eco-design for sustainable products regulation. So as I just mentioned, the final text has been published this summer in July. And this ESPR is a framework legislation. Imagine it's the mother having many different kids. For the moment, this mother framework legislation means that there's not yet any obligations. It only gives a certain direction where all the kids need to go. The kids, also called as product-specific measures, they will be developed later on with mandatory obligations for companies, so for you, that will come only for certain products. This is, in brief, the process, as described by Clement. It's around 2 or 3 years between the moment you have a product in a working plan and then you have a concrete product-specific measure with mandatory requirements. So it's a few years process, but how does it work? So you have the commission, they put some products in what they call the working plan on the left. Then they ask an external consultant to work. Why an external consultant? Because commission colleagues are not experts on all the topics, so they are asking third party, being a consultant or joint research centers, as mentioned by Clemens before. They are doing what they called a preparatory study, an impact assessment on the commission proposal to help the commission with having a proposal on a specific topic, which the commission then gives to the Ecodesign-Forum, having as members stakeholders. I will tell you more in a second. And then it's not the stakeholders, so Orgalim has no voting power. The ones having the power, the rights in Brussels are the member states. By the way, when the media are saying things are going wrong in Brussels, it's not Brussels, it's all member states together coming to Brussels that maybe have voted something in the wrong direction. So then the member states adopt the eco-design measures, and it's very important to have in mind that it is the member states. Why? Because as industry, you can work night and days and you can give a lot of input to policymakers, but at the end of the day, if you want to influence the process, you also need to influence the member states. They are the ones playing the music. And then after 18 months, and during all that process, you have stakeholders consultations organized by the European Commission. And after, when this process is closed, you have 18 months transition period before the measures will start to apply for specific products. As mentioned before by Uli and Clement, the scope of this new ESPR is much broader than the old Ecodesign Directive. Why? Because it's not only energy-related products, it's in theory all products that could be affected by ESPR, with of course some exceptions like defense, military, and so on. They came up with new sustainability and eco-design aspects. They also come up with, I will tell you more in a second, horizontal measures, and last but not least, a strong focus on product information with a digital product passport. On top of product-specific measures, and this is a bit worrying, they will come up with horizontal eco-design requirements for 2 or more product groups displaying similarities, allowing product aspects to be effectively improved based on common information or performance requirements. We already know that they have mandated the Joint Research Center of the Commission to draft some possible horizontal eco-design requirements on durability and repairability, for example, but some others might come also on recyclability, post-consumer recycled content, lightweight design, and sustainable sourcing. This is the slide giving a bit of a headache to many companies and members of Orgalim. So this is in theory, so this is the direction where the mother wants to bring all the kids. So all these boxes are potential new mandatory eco-design requirements that will come up in the future for some products. As you can see, the list is very long and very exhaustive. It goes from generation of waste materials to recycled content, environmental footprints, presence of substances of concern, water use and efficiency, resource use and efficiency, energy use and efficiency, durability, repairability, reusability, upgradability, reliability, maintenance and refurbishment, and at the end of the product life cycle, possibility of recycling, possibility of recovering, and possibility of remanufacturing. The only good news on this slide is that it will not be automatic that all these product aspects you see on the slides will be requested in the future for all products. This will be decided in the future in the preparatory studies and impact assessment done by the consultant and the Commission, product by product, based on the specificities of each product. As you can imagine, textile might not have the same requirements as a tire, for example. It's different products, so they will have different requirements at the end. Then the Commission came up with a digital product passport, which has already been mentioned before by Uli and Clemens. And the whole intention of the DPP is to simplify digital access to product-specific information related not only to green aspects, but also to legal compliance. Commission is really convinced, and they have the hope that this DPP will not only be helpful for industries, but also for NGOs and consumers, and also for market surveillance authorities to improve their job on the market surveillance. Important to know is that in the context of ESPR, ESPR will only come up with a list of possible data to be included in a mandatory way in this digital product passport. The right side of the slide, the what. So for which product, which data will be requested to be included in the DPP. This will be developed, this will be known in the future through this famous KIDS legislation, the product-specific dedicated legislation in future delegated acts. We already know that it might include information on one or more of the following: technical performance, environmental sustainability performance, circularity aspects, all the boxes I showed you before, legal compliance, but also product-related information with manuals and other things. The DPP system, the how, this will be developed not under ESPR. This will be developed horizontally for all product groups and legislation via standardization. So under the standards and protocols, they will come up with the IT architecture of the DPP. So not under Ecodesign, not under ESPR, but on the DPP standards. And this will be about 8 points, including unique identifier, data carriers, access right management, interoperability, data processing, data storage, data authentication, and so on. So in case you are interested in all this detailed IT architecture, I strongly encourage you to become active in standardization national committees to influence and shape these future points. So under the DPP, concretely, what is the Commission expecting the companies to do? Companies in the future, if their products will need to have a mandatory digital product passport, they will need to make sure that this product passport exists and is in compliance, and then that the product passport is complete, and then that the information included in the passport is authentic, that you have a backup copy of the DPP, and so on. Some things ahead for the implementation. So Commission services are working on different things. They will come up with the rules and requirements to be followed by DPP service providers, digital credentials, design and set up the DPP registry, DPP web portal, and definitions of standards. You see more details here. Important to note on this slide is that 2027 will be the year of digital product passport. As you may know, the first digital product passport will not be for eco-design products, but for batteries. And this first DPP for batteries will already be a reality around February 2027. And the first DPP for first ESPR products are expected a few months later, mid of 2027. was already mentioned by Clement. This is the draft working plan of ESPR with products which are already in the list of this ESPR program. I will not repeat the list which has already been presented by Clemens. This is a draft. The final ESPR working plan is expected to be published next year around March or April. Important is that by the end of this year, the Commission will establish the Ecodesign-Forum with the voice of stakeholders, and the first meeting of this new Ecodesign-Forum is expected early next year. And the first ESPR measures for textile and iron and steel are expected to be adopted already in 2026, with the first product requirements starting to apply 18 months later, so end of 2027, early 2028. Now, I also inform you, in case you did not know, that some days ago, the European Commission published a new frequently asked question document on ESPR, which is a very detailed and really very interesting. It's a 90 pages document providing very useful information on different things you see on the slide, going from the scope of the ESPR to the interplay between ESPR and other regulations, for example, construction products regulation. They also give information about the ESPR timeline and application. Ecodesign-Forum, I will tell you more in a second, I copied some slides. Digital product passport, technical aspects, value chain, compliance and enforcement, the link between the old energy label and old eco-design and the new one, how they will do the working plan, prepare the delegated acts, the methodology, the self-regulation, substances of concern, provision on unsold consumer products, ESPR label and classes of performance, green public procurement, guidance, funding, SMEs, you might be very interested in that, and competitiveness, online marketplaces, transition application, enforcement and market surveillance, verification and conformity, international and trade. So now moving on to the most important part of the presentation, I think for you, why should you companies get involved in this whole process? Well, in a nutshell, we believe it's because it will help you to prepare your future as companies. Why you should get involved? To influence the upcoming future product-specific measures, these famous ESPR delegated acts that will contain new mandatory obligations for companies, so for you, for certain products that are in the scope of this ESPR working plan, and also to help associations like VKO, FMTI, and Orgalim to make sure the proposed new requirements will be implementable in the real life by companies of all sizes and in particular for SMEs, and to transform the challenges of today into business opportunities for tomorrow. I will share with you an experience I had in the lighting industry. In 2004, imagine 20 years ago, I could see the very panicked face of colleagues from the lighting industries working in companies of different sizes, and they saw this new eco-design measures for lighting products coming, and in short, they were gradually banning the most consuming light sources to move to LEDs only. Imagine the shock for many smaller lighting companies. And while some members were a bit fighting in the room how speed or slow it should be and helping companies, and imagine you put a white LED lamp 20 years ago in a 5,000 wonderful Italian luminaire with Murano glass, imagine the reaction on eco-design was not always easy. Some companies in the room were saying, okay, I let them fight with these eco-design measures. Me as a company, I will start proactively already changing all my light sources in the luminaire. I know this is the direction of the European Union. I will not wait for mandatory requirements. I will already proactively change my production line to go in a more green lighting industry direction. And I thought, wow, it's really clever. It's taking the challenges of today, transforming it as a future business opportunity. So that was really nice and proactive. So when should companies get involved in this process? as always, yesterday evening is better than in 10 years, but seriously, as soon as possible. That's a strong recommendation for you to be ready when you will see this new mandatory ESPR requirements becoming reality. We can hear the studio. Your info. And so how should companies get involved? So that's the concrete part for you now. So by providing your expertise as company's expert and knowledge to national associations and sector associations like WKO and FMTI in Austria, or associations at European level, like, for example, Orgalim, to support Orgalim providing solid input from Europe's technology industries to the future Ecodesign-Forum that will be established, the ongoing ESPR preparatory studies on iron and steel products and also textile, as mentioned by Clemens, the ongoing EU-funded project SIRPAS2, I will tell you more in a second, and last but not least, also to the ongoing standardization activities that are going on. We can hear you, Uli. We can hear the studio for your info. We can hear you. Okay, so now moving on to the old Ecodesign consultation forum. How is it working until today? And I think it's important for you to know because we don't know yet exactly how the future Ecodesign forum will work, but knowing how the old forum is working today already gives a good impression of how the future could be. So under the old Ecodesign directive, you have the Article 18 of the directive saying what the consultation forum is about. And the Commission shall ensure that in the conduct of its activities, it observes in respect of each implementing measure, the KIDS measures for specific products, a balanced participation of member states, representatives and all interested parties concerned with the product or product group in question, such as industry, us, including SMEs and craft industry, trade unions, traders, retailers, importers, environmental protection groups, and consumer organizations. So all these parties shall contribute to define and reviewing implementing measures and to examine the effectiveness of the established market surveillance procedure. So all these parties meet in a consultation forum and the rules of procedure shall be established by the Commission. You have an official webpage for all the Commission expert groups. There you will have the link of the old Ecodesign consultation forum. And this is the list of members of the current old Ecodesign consultation forum. As mentioned by Clemens before, you will not find any individual companies. The organizations you see on the screens today are only EU associations. So a lot of industry representatives, Aplia for the white goods, heating industry, but also the consumers, Dirk, Digital Europe, environmental NGOs, EURIC for recyclers, Eurochambre, Eurocommerce, environmental NGOs. So as you can see, they are all at EU level, and Orgalim, as I mentioned before, and you see also Lighting Europe, that's how I was involved in the past in the consultation forum, is also a member of this forum, and there's also somewhere SME United, which is representing the voice of SMEs in the forum. You also have representatives for all the member states. And last, they call also it other public entity like Iceland, Norway, Liechtenstein. There you have the rules of the old Ecodesign forum. Important to note on this one is that the chair of the forum might invite non-member representatives to discuss specific agenda items at specific meetings. As mentioned by Clemens also before, the Commission has the power to invite experts with specific expertise with respect to a specific matter, and they can also invite observers to specific meetings. My experience from my time at Lighting Europe, being a member in this forum, is that, as I mentioned to you before, the lighting industry was very heavily impacted by several eco-design measures, not only one, but several. For example, the one on light sources and separate control gears. And I remember attending some specific consultation forum meetings dealing only with a specific eco-design measure for lighting products. We were around 8 or 10 representatives from Lighting Europe, not only from the Secretariat of Lighting Europe in Brussels, but also members, being companies having the technical expertise, were allowed to come to this consultation forum meetings. The association Lighting Europe had to send a request in advance to the Commission. And if your request was accepted, then you could arrive to the meeting with so many experts on one topic, even if they were not official members of the consultation forum. And as mentioned before, the earlier you provide the input into the process, of course, the better it is. Now, moving to some slides presented by the Commission on this new eco-design forum. So, as mentioned by Clement before, they plan to establish this forum before the end of this year and to have the first meeting of this new forum somewhere early next year. These are some obligations on the Commission. They have the obligation to establish this forum in the form of a Commission expert group. And the aim of this group is to ensure proper consultation of all interested parties. And when preparing for eco-design requirements, the Commission has to take into account the views expressed by the eco-design forum and the member states expert group. So the members of this forum are experts designated by member states and other industry interested parties, including, as I read the list already before, representatives of industry, including SMEs, craft industry, social enterprises, trade unions, and so on, actors involved in circular economy activities. This is new compared to the previous version, like repairers, for example, European standardization organizations, as well as researchers. So the role of this forum is to contribute to prepare eco-design requirements. They help also preparing the working plans, which are very important because the working plan are listing the products which in the future will be impacted by new mandatory requirements. And they will also assess the possibility of having self-regulation and prohibition of the destruction of unsold consumer products. On top of the eco-design forum with a lot of different stakeholders, you have this member state expert group. There are a subgroup of the eco-design forum composed by experts designated by member states, and they have to they are responsible for the same issues as the forum, but just between member states only and no other stakeholders. So the Commission will adopt a Commission decision legally binding to establish the forum. This is expected before the end of this year, so Q3. And in this decision, we will see the horizontal rules governing the forum, the role of the forum, how they plan to select the members, how the forum will work, how to ensure transparency. So this will be very important. And the call for membership application is will be publicly available, and Orgalim will of course apply to become a member of this new eco-design forum. They will come up with rules of procedure. The documents for transparency reasons are obliged to be sent in advance of the meetings with some specific deadlines, and first meeting, as mentioned before, is planned early next year. Some general principles, some initial reflections from the Commission, nothing final yet. We need to see the final document that will be published. They said that they plan to maintain an open public call for membership application with possible rounds of selection depending on the product's horizontal requirements covered by the subsequent working plan. I think this is important because in the official eco-design forum, I expect more or less the list of members to be the same as in the previous old forum, with only EU associations, very horizontal. covering a wide range of industries, for example. And maybe in this product-specific measures, they will invite specific industries being specialized in one group to attend specific meetings. For example, if they come up with eco-design requirements on pumps, the association representing pumps could be invited to the specific forum, but maybe the Europump EU association will not be a member of the overall eco-design forum. That's how I understand what it could mean in practice. They will also come up with a membership criteria to ensure there's a high level of expertise, geographical balance, and so on. The mandate of the forum will be for 5 years, renewable, and hybrid meetings will be the default. And with this, since COVID, I see many more participants can join the forum. Before they were limited by the number of places in their meeting rooms in Brussels, and that might be maybe good news in the future to have more members attending this forum meeting from the Commission. Be aware that there will be a coexistence of the old consultation forum with the new eco-design forum until 2030. There will be a transitional mechanism, and the old forum will continue to be consulted on energy-related products, for which the work is already substantially advanced so as to get the necessary 2009-105, so eco-design measures adopted until the end of next year. And in case some existing eco-design measures need some technical corrections, they could be adopted until the end of 2030. And the eco-design forum, also dealing with energy label, will be consulted on product horizontal requirements identified in the ESPR working plan, either as a new product, so outside the scope of the current eco-design directive, or on energy-related products, except those under the transition mechanism. Transition period is that the existing measures under the old eco-design, they remain in force until repeal. There's ongoing work on 19 energy-related products, and this can continue until end of next year. Here you see, for example, the concrete energy-related products on the left, which will be still progressed under the transitional regime under the old eco-design directive. And on the right, you see the products from the old eco-design directive that will be progressed under the new ESPR working plan. Here for you, I copied from, I will not read everything, I copied from the new FAQ from the European Commission on ESPR, the relevant extracts related to this eco-design forum. So here they repeat, so what is the forum? They will work with a wide range of relevant stakeholders. Who can join the forum and how can they apply for membership? It will be open to, again, a wide range of stakeholders. All members will need to fit into specific categories, and we will see the details when they will publish the call for application. There will be a public call for application, publicly available on the Commission website with all the Commission expert groups. They have the obligation to be transparent and do it publicly. And in this call, we will have all the details, who can join and what are the rules of procedures. What will be the membership criteria? Well, we don't know it yet, but of course you need to have proven and relevant competence and experience, including at the EU level. I forgot to mention before, so in the current list of members of the old forum, you don't see companies, but you also do not see national associations. You only see EU associations that rely on the expertise of their members, including national associations. So as you can see, we are all in the same boat, you companies being members of national association and they're being members of EU associations. So it's really important that we all work together. When will the call for application be published? Before the end of this year. Very important for you, I think. Will individual companies, industry representatives be eligible to be members of this forum? or must they join via professional associations like WKO and FMTI in Austria? A final decision on membership criteria has yet to be taken, and full details will be published in the call for applications. Given the very wide range of stakeholders that the forum will be required to gather, the possibility of restricting full membership to organizations with proven capacity to effectively represent the position shared by stakeholders, for example, so they already mentioned it very clearly, representative associations, umbrella organizations, they did not put individual companies, has not been excluded. In all cases, stakeholders, like companies for industries, interested in following the work of the Ecodesign-Forum are encouraged to contact relevant representative organizations at EU level, like Orgalim, or national level, like WKO and FMTI. Will stakeholders be able to join the forum at a later stage, depending on the product categories? Yes, they will come up with more details later, but as mentioned before, we expect that for specific product groups, they might do new call for applications to have the relevant experts in specific sectors. Can SMEs be part of the Ecodesign-Forum? And if so, who should they contact? Yes, ESPR makes clear that SMEs should participate in the forum. They mentioned that the Commission may decide to restrict full membership to organizations with proven capacity. In the past, for your info, SMEs' voice was represented on top of being very important in all associations like Orgalim. You have seen how many companies we have, and they are mainly SMEs, so we are always try to defend as best as we can the SMEs in all our messages. You have EU associations like SME United, if I don't say stupid things, which are representing in particular the voice of SMEs in this forum. Do the members of the forum need to be EU-based? It could include non-EU-based parties, but as you like Iceland, Norway, but most of the associations, as you could see before, were all EU associations. Then I skip the other things. You can see more details when you will be receiving the slides. So now moving to the ongoing ESPR preparatory study on iron and steel products, as mentioned by Clemens. Iron and steel products plus textiles are the two first categories of products to be regulated. So it's not something in the future. They already started and it's already concrete. On this page, you will see it on the slide. You can register in case you are interested as company, as a stakeholder. So you will automatically receive latest news from this ongoing preparatory study. And the aim of this study is to deliver an in-depth exploration of the environmental and techno-economic aspects of iron and steel products, producing scientific evidence to support future discussion on EU product policy and lay the ground for a possible future delegated act to be developed by the Commission for iron and steel products. They will come up not only with identification of measures with the highest improvement potential, but also for proposal for scope of which data to be included in a digital product passport on iron and steel. This is more detailed, kindly provided by Industry Collect from Eurofair on this study. The particularity of iron and steel is that it is an intermediate product, not a final product like it was the case in the old Ecodesign Directive with energy-related product. And as you can see, the stakeholder involvement is really crucial. I forgot to mention, sorry, it's the Joint Research Center of the Commission doing this study. We attended together with Uli the first stakeholders meeting. They really repeated, I don't know how many times, that it's really important for them to have as many companies involved as possible. So if you are interested, don't hesitate to join the study as a stakeholder. Here you see more details on the different tasks of this preparatory study. Most interesting ones are ahead of us with some design options, development of criteria, scenarios and the data to be included in the digital product passport. This is not yet available. There was already a first workshop on 25th of June. Next one will be in February. And the drafting of the delegated act by the Commission is expected to start next year in June. I guess you are highly interested by iron and steel because you use it in many of your products. This is the list of representative products they have already selected in the study. Rolled coil, rod and wire rod, galvanized cold rolled coal, stainless steel, and electrical sheet have been selected. Orgalim submitted some input to this preparatory study during the summer. Our comments are very general. They did a consultation during the summertime, otherwise it would not be funny if we would have too much time to prepare more detailed comments. In a nutshell, as Orgalim, we are saying that we are welcoming that data will be requested from manufacturers of intermediate products such as steel and iron, as it will help all industries using steel and iron in our products to access data from these manufacturers. And for us, it's very important to preserve the competitiveness of our industries, to avoid unnecessary and burden duplication of effort, double regulation, and to ensure consistency with other legislation. And our members told us they are quite worried to see a possible double regulation between this new eco-design requirements and, for example, a ETS, emission trading system, or carbon border adjustment mechanism, also known as CBAM, or other regulations on chemicals and plastics. And we also mentioned that we would welcome more information on how it could work in practice and what kind of obligations will be related to the DPP, but we need to wait for the task number 8 to be ready. As Orgalim, we had a very interesting meeting with industry colleagues from Eurofair 2 weeks ago. Uli was also there. And 1 year ago, position of Orgalim was that we were not in favor of regulating intermediate products on the ESPR, but whether we like it or not, they did it. So we can't have the same position anymore 1 year later. Members of Eurofair will have to deliver lots of data. Eurofair members are quite supportive to regulate intermediate products under ESPR. They are also supportive of having performance requirements on steel. Maybe to start with, it could be only information requirements and later on performance requirements. The expectation from Eurofair is that the information requirements on steel and iron will be on the steel producers, not on SMEs that are using the steel, which sounds like good news. Let's wait to see the proposal from the Commission. Which data will be asked in the DPP is not clear yet. Just be aware, so Orgalim is not active on this other study, but in case you are interested, there's another preparatory study on textile that is going on. It's also done by the Joint Research Center of the Commission. Objective is the same, to come up with possible eco-design requirements for textile. Here you see more details on the different milestones of this study and different deliverable and deadlines. And in case you are interested, sorry, you have the link to register to the preparatory study so that you can get involved as a stakeholder. Now, moving on to the EU-funded project SIRPAS, you might have heard about it. It's only about digital product passport, quite an important EU-funded project with a 13 million euro funding, which is quite important. And the objective in a nutshell is to deploy and validate at scale in real-life setting digital product passport in different value chains, including electronics and textile. For example, and they also want to provide support to SMEs in their uptake of DPPs. I will not read everything. This is a slide. You can read it later when you will receive them. What is the DPP? Why it is relevant for companies? Important to note is that the SIRPAS2 project is not only working on the mandatory data that will be requested in the future on the ESPR, but also on non-mandatory data, because some companies could use the DPP as a marketing tool for example, going beyond what is legally required under ESPR. You have some timelines about this project compared to a standardization process that is going on. They have asked to have a standardization liaison request with Senelec DTC 24 working on the DPP. There are many members in this project. In case you don't know, Austrian Platform Industry 4.0 is a member of this Path2 project, which is great news for you in Austria. Orgalim is not a direct member. We simply don't have the resources and money. But Orgalim has been invited to join the several expert working groups of Path2 in the observatory board, electronics and other sectors, including construction products. I will move on. You can read all the details later on the different objectives of the expert working groups. And now last slide, so standardization activities. Orgalim is also not involved directly, but some of the members and experts in Orgalim, whether they are companies and national associations, are involved in Senelec GTC 24 about the digital product passport. So they are responsible developing standards for DPP, which are expected by end of next year, but this is very optimistic. We already heard that some delays are expected. You see more details on the slide on the timing. What is in the scope of their standardization request? The 8 points I mentioned before, which is not the same as the data, which is under ESPR. And as an economic operators, they are mentioning on this slide who should be interested to join this GTC 24. So one last concluding slide from my side before we move to the discussion. Please help us. This is a call to you, companies. Please help us, WKO and FMTI in Austria, but also Orgalim at EU level to defend your interests. So we represent the interest of Europe's technology industries. You are this technology industry, so please help us to help you. How? By providing your expertise and knowledge in these different activities. I hope you found it useful. Sorry, it was quite a lot of information at once, but you will receive the slides. And I think now it's time for discussion in case you have any question. And I will stop sharing my slide if that's okay for the organizer.
Well, Stephanie, that was amazing. Thank you so much for a real tour d'horizon throughout all those various aspects. There's an amazing fountain of knowledge there. Thank you for taking the time. We really appreciate having such an expert here with such a long expertise. Und ich würde jetzt zu den Fragen übergehen. Mein Name ist Heinrich Peziner. Ich mache gemeinsam mit der Ulrike Witz und dem Clemens Rosenmeier hier unsere Webinarreihe. Und die erste Frage, die wir hier gestellt bekommen, ist: Wie funktionieren die Preparatory Studies operativ? Ist es empfehlenswert für einzelne Unternehmen hier teilzunehmen? Operativ ist es so, dass man sich über das Product Bureau anmeldet. Ist es empfehlenswert für das Unternehmen hier teilzunehmen? Ja, auf jeden Fall. Die Stephanie hat es auch ausführlich dargelegt, warum. Weil je mehr individuelle Unternehmen sich hier einbringen, umso besser ist die Datenlage für die Studie, die als Ergebnis dort rauskommt und dann auch Eingang findet in den Delegated Act, der dann die konkreten Regeln festzieht. Stephanie, would you like to comment on that?
I think you summarized it very well. I think as companies, you have two ways indeed to become active, or you are directly active with the study in case they are looking for really technical expertise on something. But it's always better to go through an association to make sure. What I forgot to mention in my speech is that when you are a policymaker or a third party doing a study for policymakers, if you receive 1,000 different views, it's much more complicated to incorporate the views in what you are preparing instead of having one big association coming with unified views from an industry. So we strongly always encourage to go via your association, so you can have different views around the table in the association, but then you bring one unified voice of a specific industry to policymakers. That's always better.
Thank you, Stephanie. Und ich würde jetzt weitergehen zur nächsten Frage, bitte. Die Frage, die meisten Upvotes bekommen hat, ist: Is it planned to have accredited notified bodies to certify the DPP of the companies? Ich übersetze das kurz auf Deutsch. Ist es geplant, dass die digitalen Produktpässe zusätzlich akkreditiert werden müssen, zum Beispiel über Notified Bodies? Ich weiß nur von einer Antwort aus dem FAQ-Dokument, das auch vorgestellt wurde von der Stephanie. Stephanie, would you like to comment on that?
Sure. So to keep it short, the possibility of having a third party is mentioned in the framework legislation ESPR, the mother. And in the FAQ, they mentioned, if I remember correctly, that product by product, when they will draft this delegated acts for all the kids, they will decide whether or not to ask for this third-party certification.
Ja, das ist auch meine Information. Das heißt dann im konkreten Beispiel, die Daten, die im DPP wiedergegeben werden, müssten dann eben zusätzlich von einem Dritten zertifiziert werden. Für wen das ist momentan noch ausständig, aber es könnte möglicherweise auch für Produkte aus Drittstaaten sein. Warum? Weil der DPP beim Import in die Europäische Union der Nachweis für die Einhaltung der Nachhaltigkeitskriterien ist. Möglicherweise, dass es dort verpflichtend ist, aber das wird die Zukunft zeigen, das wissen wir heute noch nicht.
Absolutely, and if I may complete,
Please.
On top of what you just mentioned, and something we really don't like, which has been added at the very end of the process, is that we'll request all manufacturers to have a backup copy of the DPP to be stored by a certified third-party product passport service provider. The background for it is that if you are a company and you go bankrupt, they want to make sure, or you become insolvent, they want to make sure that the DPP data will remain somewhere. We really don't like it. We don't see how it will be working, but it's there in the final text.
Ja. Und das ist wichtig, und diese Daten sind vorzuhalten für die voraussichtliche Lebensdauer des Produkts. Das heißt, auch da wird sich, wie lange das ist, werden wir anhand der jeweiligen Produktgruppe sehen im delegierten Rechtsakt, wie lange diese Daten vorzuhalten sind. Momentan ist vieles noch im Fluss, und wir werden schauen, dass wir so rasch wie möglich informieren, wenn da Neues kommt. Die nächste Frage, bitte. Welche Institution wird Österreich am Ecodesign-Forum vertreten? Ministerium, welches oder das Umweltbundesamt? Das ist momentan noch nicht abschließend geklärt. Kurze Unterscheidung. Im Ökodesign-Forum sind einerseits die nationalen Vertreter. Die Frage bezieht sich darauf. Hier ist es sehr wahrscheinlich, dass ein Vertreter des BMAW, also des Bundesministeriums für Arbeit und Wirtschaft, und andererseits des BMK, zumindest nach der heutigen Regierungsform, dort die Vertretung wahrnimmt. Möglicherweise auch ein Vertreter des Umweltbundesamtes. Wie es dann nach einer neuen Regierung ausschaut und wie die Ministerien dann vergeben sind, das können wir heute noch nicht sagen, aber auch da werden wir Sie informiert halten. Ich bin auf jeden Fall auch in Kontakt mit den Ministerien und schaue, dass wir dort diese Information natürlich auch vorrätig haben. Nächste Frage bitte. Wie organisiert Orgalim die Mitarbeiterpositionierung in diesem Ecodesign-Forum oder SIRPAS? SIRPAS ist das Projekt, das Forschungsprojekt, das die Stephanie auch kurz vorgestellt hat, wo es darum geht, konkrete Umsetzungsbeispiele für den DPP zu haben. Stephanie, would you like to answer that?
Sorry, just to make sure I understand what is meant by Mitarbeiterposition.
Yeah,
The position of companies, of industries in Orgalim.
I'll quickly, thank you for asking. I will quickly translate it. How does Orgalim organize the participation or the positioning in the Ecodesign-Forum and or SERPAS?
Well, the positioning, we do it in a working group. So we have this Green Transition Working Group, which I mentioned before, where we decide on the Orgalim position, which is sometimes a long process because we represent a lot of companies having different interests. And once we come up with a position in Orgalim, we bring that position to the Ecodesign-Forum. I hope this is what the question was, and the same for SERPAS, of course.
Ja, die Arbeit ist durchaus ähnlich, auch die wir hier in der WKO haben, wo es darum geht, dass wir die Interessen anfangs aller Mitglieder abfragen. Die werden dann zusammengefasst in den Fachverbänden, wie beispielsweise dem FMTI. Der Fachverband macht daraus dann eine Position, die wird dann bei uns weiter gemeldet an die jeweilige Sparte. Dort wird der Clemens Rosenmeier, der dann diese ganzen Fachorganisationsthemen zusammenfasst, und von den 7 Sparten kommt es dann an eine Kollegin oder Kollegen, so wie mich, und wir machen daraus eine Position und gehen dann damit an die Ministerien oder die Behörden, und ich nehme an, bei Orgalim wird es ähnlich sein.
Exactly the same, and if I may add something, of course it happens that sometimes members have different opinions. We only communicate on things which are agreed by all members. Sometimes we agree to disagree, and when members have different opinions, then you will not see that mentioned in the position.
Und das
We try our best, but sometimes it's not always possible.
Und das ist natürlich auch bei uns der Fall. Sollte es sein, dass die Positionen so weit auseinander sind, dass wir keine gemeinsamen Nenner finden können, bleibt das auch in der Positionierung der WKO unerwähnt oder wird ausgeklammert. Das ist einfach dem geschuldet, dass wir stärker sind, wenn wir eine gemeinsame Position haben, als wenn wir mit unterschiedlichen Meinungen in so einen Prozess hineingehen. Die nächste Frage ist, how can EU companies compete on markets in countries outside from the EU with companies from these countries where EU regulations do not apply? These companies do not have these administrative burdens. Stephanie, would you?
Good question. I'm smiling because it's nervous in the sense that it's not the first time we see this question, which we also asked the Commission. To keep it short, the EU can only impose regulations in the EU. What's going outside the EU is not in the power of the EU. The Commission is always saying that, so we mention administrative burden in the text, in the question, and Orgalim often does the same. But the EU really strongly believes that being so ambitious compared to other regions in the world is on the long term good for the European industry. Otherwise, we would be doing all the same with different salaries in other regions, and so Europe would not be competitive. That's the official answer from the Commission, and of course, ESPR requirements will have to be applied by importers, by any person selling any products, placing products or putting into service products on the EU market. The big issue there, that in theory sounds good what the Commission is saying, but the big problem I did not mention in my speech is market surveillance.
Yeah.
That's the big problem. It costs a fortune for manufacturers in Europe to be compliant, but if nobody checks what is coming into in Europe, which might not always be of the same quality, it's clearly at the detriment of EU companies, which is horrible.
Was die Stephanie da auch erwähnt, die Marktüberwachung ist ein Thema, das wir auch bei uns in der Webinarreihe schon vorgesehen haben, weil wir glauben, dass das ist einer der zentralen Durchsetzungsmechanismen, die Behörden haben. Und wir sehen das auch so, teilen auch die Besorgnis. Und dementsprechend haben wir dem einen eigenen Webinarteil gewidmet, wo dann auch die Vertreter der jeweiligen Behörden bei uns ihre Sichtweise vorstellen werden. Nächste Frage bitte. Wie intensiv sind Unternehmensvertreter oder Verbände eingebunden? Ich nehme an, die Frage bezieht sich jetzt auf einerseits die Vorarbeiten und andererseits aufs Ecodesign-Forum. Die Stefanie hat kurz erwähnt, dass Orgalim schon seit 4 Jahren intensiv mit der Europäischen Kommission in Kontakt ist. Wir sind laufend auch mit den Ministerien und dem Umweltbundesamt in Kontakt, um im Vorfeld auch schon unsere Themen dort zu positionieren. But Stephanie, would you like to comment how intensively you were involved in the process of preparatory studies, delegated acts, and how you approached it? You already mentioned it in your presentation, but I believe it's interesting to hear that again, please.
Welcome. So it depends on the products. How can I say? Orgalim is only extremely active on topics which are of horizontal importance to all the members. So for example, if you have a consultation for a meeting arriving on horizontal requirement on durability for many products, we will be working days and nights to make sure it goes in the good direction. A bit the same for iron and steel, but I have to confess that the preparatory study is quite technical. It's 400 pages. And if Orgalim does not receive the technical input from their members, Orgalim cannot provide input to the study. So we are all interdependent. You companies need to provide input to national association that bring input to EU association. But if we don't have the input, we simply cannot be active. But it depends on topics. When it's extremely technical, we see it's more difficult. But for example, on taxonomy, sustainable finance, where all companies want to have their activities included sometimes in less than 2 hours, suddenly you receive a lot of input from members. It depends on the topic and on deadlines, and so it really depends.
Ja, auch hier von uns nochmal der Aufruf, melden Sie sich bei den Fachverbänden wie dem FMTI oder in sonstigen Fachverbänden oder Organisationen, in die Sie eingebracht, wo Sie Mitglied sind, Orgalim oder Eurofair, der Dachverband der Stahlproduzenten. Es hilft uns allen, wenn Sie mit Ihrer Fachwissen sich zusätzlich auch dort einbringen, damit Ihre Stimme dort bestmöglich gehört wird. Nächste Frage bitte. Werden die horizontalen Maßnahmen für alle Produkte gelten? Ganz kurz. Horizontale Maßnahmen, also wir unterscheiden 2 Themen. Das eine sind die produktspezifischen Maßnahmen, die konkret nur für eine Produktgruppe gelten. Und das andere sind die horizontalen Maßnahmen, die über verschiedene Produktgruppen hinweg im gleichen Ausmaß gelten. Stephanie, would you like to help us there what your current knowledge is?
Yeah, so as briefly mentioned in one of the slides, you can read it with Cal later. Commission announced we were a bit worried at the start that they would come up with horizontal eco-design requirements like durability, for example, on all products. It's not the case. Good news. Commission plans to come up with horizontal eco-design requirements only for 2 or more products, so not 100, 2 or more, displaying similarities, allowing a product aspect to be effectively improved based on common information or performance requirements. So it sounds quite reasonable what they plan. Now we need to see in practice when we see the draft coming, of course.
Ja, und eines der Beispiele, das die Stefanie dort auch erwähnt hat, war die Reparierbarkeit. Es kann sein, dass dann 2 oder 3 Produktgruppen eben das gleiche Reparierbarkeitskriterium zu erfüllen haben. Wie das dann konkret umgesetzt wird, das wissen wir noch nicht und das entwickelt sich auch momentan. Damit haben wir 2 Minuten vor Schluss auch alle unsere Fragen fertig. Eine Frage noch von mir an Stefanie. Stephanie, what I heard is, so you mentioned and we repeated that, you also repeated that, the DPP at the moment is will only be mandatory for those products where the delegated act mentions that. But how to deal if your suppliers do not have to provide a DPP or not to build a DPP? How do you think that will work? How do your members
What
get?
do you mean if you have components, they don't have a DPP
Yes.
and you have as a final product?
Yeah.
So it's not yet written in stones, but from the FAQ document and from discussions we had with the Commission, imagine you have and Uli, please correct me if I say stupid things, you were also there. If you have the example of an electrical bike, final product, in the bike you can have batteries, you can have aluminium. They will ask only for one DPP that will merge the information from other DPPs from the components. So at the end, they will only request one DPP at final product level, merging information from components DPP. And on the DPP, if I may add something, I forgot to mention in my presentation, don't be very happy in the sense if you produce a specific product and you did not see your products on the ESPR working plan, maybe you think, great, good news, I don't need to have a mandatory DPP for the moment. That's short term. Long term, be aware the Commission plan, dream is to have in the future a digital product passport on all products in Europe. That's the future plan of the Commission. It's just that they have limited budget and resources, so they start with a few products, but be aware that's the clear direction where they want to go in the future.
Und damit werden wir hier auch schon aufhören. Wir haben eine Punktladung gemacht. Großes Dankeschön an Stefanie für die wirklich umfassende und tolle und tiefgehende Beantwortung. Und Uli, ich würde dir das letzte Wort geben, damit du uns, und danke auch dem Clemens natürlich für seine Mitarbeit und unseren Kollegen, die uns hier so toll unterstützen. Und Uli, magst du uns verabschieden?
Ja, ich verabschiede die Zuhörer. Vielen Dank, dass Sie dabei waren. Wir hoffen, dass die Informationen, die wir heute vorgetragen haben, für Sie hilfreich waren, dass Sie wissen, es gibt viel zu tun und wir müssen alle gemeinsam den weiteren Weg gehen. Also melden Sie sich bei uns. Wir sind gerne für Sie da und schauen, dass wir Ihre Interessen weiter voranbringen. Dankeschön fürs Dabeisein. Danke an alle Kollegen.
Danke sehr.